thin person.
Oh my God.
All right, well, we're back. And joining us is Patrick Hinds of True Crime Obsessed and Obsessed with Disappeared, along with his new co-host for Obsessed with Disappeared and best friend of Forever, Ellyn Marsh, and some guy named Justin.
Yeah.
Hi, you guys.
Hey.
This is so crazy. Wait, what are we even doing?
We're talking.
I actually don't know what we're doing either. I just show up when Patrick tells me to. I have no idea what I walked into. I'm really excited.
Awesome.
You guys, I don't mean I'm just so excited to be talking to you. I can't believe this is happening. I'm obsessed with you guys.
Aw. When did you start listening to us?
So, okay, so you guys started in 2012, right?
Yeah. Way before it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, my God, I must have found you guys very soon thereafter. I was an early adopter of the second wave of podcasting. You know, podcasting was big in 2004 for 15 people or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I feel in 2009 or 10 or whatever, I sort of found podcasting, became obsessed with true crime. And then but there wasn't a ton of content. And then you guys came out. I was with you guys probably from very early on. And I was just totally obsessed. I was totally obsessed with you guys. And and I was saying to Aaron when he asked us to do this, I'm well, I'm going to just gush for an hour because you guys really inspired me not only to create podcasts, but to try to figure out a way to create a true crime podcast. And I always thought of you guys as the OGs. And you guys have such a specific way. And I just didn't know if there was room for other people who sounded like me and other people who were sort of crazy like me. And I just love you guys so much. I'm so honored to be sitting and talking to you guys. So thank you for just asking us to hang out with you.
When he told me we were coming on, he was like, "We're going to." I
was be cool. Be cool. It's the Gen Y guys. Be cool.
Be cool. Everyone act normal.
So excited. I was like, "Can you actually just text me? Because your ears and your voice."
Wow.
You guys, it's gonna be a lot of lady voice for this. I'm sorry, but it's just when I get excited, I take it up an octave, and that's where I live.
That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
So before we started the live stream, we were talking about some stuff, and you guys had actually asked how Aaron and I met, and Patrick was telling us how he's a compulsive liar. So.
Kind of.
So here I'm going to try to tell the story of how Aaron and I met. Okay. Now, I'm not a compulsive liar, but I'm going to get all the details wrong, and he's going to correct me. So my first correction is I always say we met in 92.
It was 93.
I'll keep track.
We were at a restaurant called Stevenson's Apple Tree. And it was just this weird mom and pop shop kind of place, but it was really high end.
I was gonna say, it sounds like they have a good cheese and charcuterie plate. Am I wrong?
Probably. I don't know. They had smothered chicken, gizzards, and apple fritters. They were known for their apple fritters.
I'm starving, you guys. I'm so hungry.
I'm really hungry too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So
I guess we're ordering from there.
Yeah. So I walk in and the place just smells like death and grease. And it's 1993 in Kansas City, Missouri, where listening to goth industrial alternative music, not cool.
Yeah.
I mean, not cool. And I walk in and there's Aaron and he's wearing a Psychic TV shirt. And Genesis Peorage and Chris and Cozy kind of deal, which walking into a rednecky restaurant 1993, I was like, oh, I'm gonna listen to some cool shit. Where did it go from there, Aaron?
Well, where it went from there is we were just getting disrespected by the waiters. They would come back and they would say, how come we don't have plates? How come we don't have dishes? And we would point at the machine that was running the dishes. And we would say, whenever it's done, we'll open it. And then you can gather up whatever you want and leave with it. But yeah, they were getting nasty with us. And Justin found a solution to all the harassment.
Which was what?
I would just pick up a plate and drop it on the floor. Just be like, I just break
I was
shit.
a dishwasher too. I was a dishwasher for like 3 summers. That's a really hard job. When we would have a separate like tray for the silverware, which we would have to wash 3 times through the dishwasher. And then when it would come out, we were expected to 2 hands pick up the silverware and like somehow magically separate the knives, the forks, and the spoons with our fingers. And it's like 500 degrees when it comes out of that thing.
Oh yeah.
And you have to like separate it and like put it into the silverware separator. Ellyn, have you ever had a job?
He's not lying. I know this much.
Job.
I had 3 jobs all through college. Who are you talking to right now? I worked at the Gap, I worked at the Student Union, and I worked at Legal Seafood. Then I upgraded and I worked at BB. It's called BB, not Bebe. And I worked 3 jobs today. I worked 3 jobs before you all got here.
Yeah.
Mom.
I feel like your life of privilege is catching up with you.
Have I ever had a job?
So wait. You said Legal Seafood?
Legal Seafood?
Yeah.
Do you know the place Legal Seafood?
What the fuck
It's like
is
a
that?
Boston, New England chain. It's like
Okay.
it's fancy seafood.
Okay.
Yeah, but not fancy. I thought it was fancy at the time, but it's like really not.
Should've
No, I
been
worked
like,
at Legal Seafood. I waited tables from like the time I was in high school to like 2005 was my last time I waited tables.
uh-huh.
Wow.
I mean, I've waited tables everywhere. I actually loved waiting tables.
She's been in the industry, yo. We're
Yeah.
like we were like there when we were kids, and she was still there when we left.
We should say Ellyn has been like in the original Broadway company of what is it, like 6 Broadway shows now?
Yeah.
She's legit. Yeah.
Nice.
It's what happens for people who like have never worked before. They just get to go right to Broadway.
Yeah. So what was wow.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, Justin. What were you going to say?
I lost my train of thought, but I have another question. Just because I want to throw it back to you. What was the last horror movie you watched?
Ellyn, do you like horror movies?
It's called The Ring, and I've been. Okay, let me ask you a question. When she crawls out of that goddamn TV, you mean to tell me you didn't have nightmares for a year? These guys are trying to get. No, absolutely not. Listen, horror is different than true crime. When that bitch jumped out of the screen, I was done. But let me tell you the worst horror movie I ever saw. Honest to God, the movie that scared me the most.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
What?
Is it the one about the home invasion? What's the one where like the people, it's like Liv Tyler's in it, and the people have like the pillowcases over their heads.
The
and you see them,
Strangers or something?
Yeah, The Strangers.
something like that. Yeah.
Juice?
Huh?
Beetlejuice?
Wait, sorry, I interrupted. Tell me, what's the scariest one?
Requiem for a Dream.
That's
Oh,
not a
God.
horror movie. That's just reality.
It was scary enough to
The
me.
two often get confused.
I watched that movie once and one time only, and it has stuck with me. I can't do horror movies. I think they're outside. I think they're under my bed.
Yeah.
I am a little baby person when it comes to.
I will say that the original Pet Sematary movie, Aunt Zelda in the back room when she had to take care of her aunt. Oh my God. She'd be like, Rachel. And I'm like, oh no.
Ellyn wouldn't be able to sleep at night with that one.
You want to hear the gayest thing ever? So when I was a kid, the thing that scared me the most was in Mary Poppins. There's a scene where the kid is like running away and he's like running down an alley, and there's this old witch woman in the alley who just says like, "Come here, sweetheart, grandma wants to talk to you." And it
Oh my God.
scared the living shit out of me.
So did Large Marge.
Large Marge was terrifying.
That
Large Marge
was.
terrifying.
That was.
Marge, my brothers and I would fast forward.
Yeah.
You know, you guys from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, is that what
Yeah.
it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, and he looked like this.
Yes! Ah, Justin!
I mean, when you're a kid, that's terrifying.
I know. I was just saying today, somebody asked me about my favorite movie, and I was saying that, like, probably of all time, it's Stand By Me. I love that movie so much, but when they find the body and they turn it over or whatever, and you see its face, I watched that one time and I've never seen it again. To this day, I cover my eyes.
You guys, when we were in college, Patrick had River Phoenix posters all over his room.
I've never felt love like that for anybody. My husband, my daughter, my friend Ellyn. I have never felt love like that for anybody else in my life.
His love for River Phoenix runs deep.
When Aaron and I went out to LA, I had to point out the Viper Room to him because I was like, that's where he died, right there. And
in the entranceway of the Viper Room. It haunts me to this day.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. But it haunts me. Every time I'm in LA and I see the Viper Room, I'm like, oh my God, it was right there. Oh, it's so fucking terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, but posters all over his room. And you also had a Heather's poster.
I did have a Heather's poster. I used to make you stand in front of it because I was like, you're my favorite Heather. Wait, you guys, I have a question for you guys. What is the case that haunts you? What is the case that you guys have covered that you still think about?
Aaron, go.
We actually talked about this recently, and for me, it's any number of cases. There's the Castro case where he was kidnapping women and keeping them in his house.
We're gonna find more Marie that way.
It's no big deal to have locked rooms, by the way, with padlocks. That's no big deal.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And did you see how close that house was to the neighbors? Like it's insane.
Yeah.
What about
I'm telling you, we're gonna find Maura Murray that way. That's how we're gonna find Maura Murray. It's one of those situations.
You did a McCann update?
Yeah. The German citizen guy.
Yeah.
Patrick and I got in a really big fight about the Madeleine McCann case.
We did?
Yeah, we did. Not a fight.
What was the fight?
Because I was like, remember I said, I was like, people in Europe do that. Remember?
Oh, because you guys, did you guys watch the documentary? The whole thing about it is
hold on. We got a lot of shit on our episode because of that, because a lot of European people wrote in and said, that's just what you do. Aaron mentioned it. And we had a shit ton of hateful emails saying that's not what you do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
the same thing. I can't remember. We were texting about it, and I was like, I have a very unpopular opinion because my daughter's husband is English.
No, your daughter's father, sweetheart. She's 10. Let's slow down on the marrying her off.
What did I say?
My daughter's husband.
Oh my.
Don't judge our choices.
Hey, listen.
My daughter's dad is English, and we used to go to resorts. Like we went to resorts in Kos, which is in Greece, and Dominican Republic. And Europeans, that's what they do. They go and they
get it.
Checking on the kid. I did not. Our kid came in a stroller to all the restaurants, but most people feel this false sense of security. And you screamed at me. You were like, it all melts together. You scream at me all the time, but
well, the thing about it is that, we learned all of there were other options for them at that resort. Like there was a night crash, as they call it, where they could have made a reservation. They could have actually put their kids in a daycare for the night if you have to go out and get hammered every single night. And they were doing a thing where each parent would get up every 30 minutes to go check on only their kids, which meant that each kid was getting checked on every hour and a half. Guys, I'm sorry. I love Europeans as much as the next guy. This is not how we do the raising of the children, though. I don't want to get Aaron and Justin in trouble. Listen, send the emails to me. I can take it.
It's fine. It's fine. It is what it is.
History, you're right. My only point was you guys were saying I can't believe it. And I was like, no, I've seen it.
Yeah, I know. I love my kid more than you love your kid. It's fine, girl. I accept it now. You know what I mean?
This is a case of a disappearance, and now you're covering Disappeared, which is, in my opinion, one of the very best true crime shows that has ever been on TV.
Yeah.
They know the cases to cover, and the pacing is phenomenal. So was there when you went to do this show, you obviously had to pick the first one. Was the first one of your favorites, or did you just literally start somewhere because you're like, I watch all of them anyway?
It's funny. I really wanted to do a podcast about missing people, and I was trying to figure out the way to do it because on True Crime Obsessed, we cover documentaries, so it can be a true crime about anything. And I was really interested and fascinated by the case of the missing people. I realized like there was a show about that. So that would be the best, easiest way for me to do it because I know how to do that sort of recap-y style. And so I actually didn't know the show very well at all. I had only ever seen one episode of it, which is season 1, episode 5 about Lee Cutler. And I was super fascinated by that. And having watched that one episode, I knew it was really well made. So I knew that we could just do it. And I'm kind of particular about when like recap shows need to go in order. So we just started like season 1, episode 1, and we're going to go like straight through the series in order.
Yeah, that's cool. That works.
Yeah. Like the Lee Cutler case have you guys covered that case?
Have we? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, but I've seen the episode on Disappeared.
Yeah.
He's a kid who was like a high school senior who like literally had a sleepover at a friend's house one night and was like texting his friends and he was sad. And then he like vanished the next day. And they found his car like 2 days later and like a little campsite in the woods. And they found surveillance video of him at like a local Walmart or whatever, where he was buying some stuff. And
so it's like Maura Murray kind of deal, like
totally.
Yeah,
except that he like left on purpose, and nobody knows where he was going. It was very Into the Wild, like he was very into the book Into the Wild, so there was that sort of parallel. But Aaron, you're right, like Disappeared is such a well-made show, and they do this really cool thing, and I was wondering about this today, how they get people to agree to this, where they'll talk about a suspect for like in an instance when they know the outcome, so they know who did it or they know what happened, they will still take us through it like a mystery, sort of like admitting to the fact that it is kind of entertainment, where like they'll focus on a suspect that they know didn't do it for like 15 minutes and take us on that journey with them. And it's it's a very strong decision, I think, because it is acknowledging that we are telling a story that people are going to be interested in. I just love it. I think Disappeared is such a well-made show. Yeah,
very much. I haven't watched in a while. I mean, I barely watch TV unless I'm sitting in a hotel when I'm traveling. Then it's pop on, the Forensic Files or whatever.
I only watch it for work now at this point.
Yeah. I would love to come on True Crime Obsessed and talk about some documentary though. So
yes, what's your favorite one? What do you like?
Well, you probably already covered them all. I have to go back to your back catalog and find one that you haven't covered.
Well, tell me because we could do it anyway. We could do like a Patreon thing where we just like have you on and we just talk about it anyway. Or we'll do a live show. That's the other thing.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
I have so many favorite ones that I'm like going back now and looking through them all.
How about like There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane? That's a mind F.
Aaron should come on for that one.
Aaron, what's your theory? What do you think happened?
Well, I personally think that what I did was I started about that time. I had read an article that influenced me because it talked about the pressures that mothers are under, and they're almost like the heads of households. And so they have to manage pretty much everything. And so the load that their brain is under is such that if you throw in something else big, I mean, sometimes if you have an off day, you can go really off the rails. And the article I'd read was about a woman that had been through some pretty rough spots in her life and was in therapy. And so I was thinking about it and I thought, if her relationship with her husband is really strained and she's taking care of the kids and everything else, then maybe she just had a day where just the spring popped out.
Yeah.
Do
you think that she was drunk?
Well, what Aaron's not saying is like we were I listened to all these other podcasts about it, and Aaron was the first one that was like, she did this on purpose. She intentionally got drunk to get the bravery to drive this car and kill these people. Like he was the first one to say that.
But I'm not saying that she said, I'm going to kill all these kids.
Yeah.
I think she got almost like in a tunnel where she was just really unhappy. She was drinking. And then, like I said, I think she just like that tunnel closed and closed, and she just went down into traffic essentially. And I don't even think she was aware, like even conscious of what she was doing to the kids.
Yeah.
What do you think about
Because she was too
how
good
are
for
you-
too long to take that away from her, to say, oh, she didn't care about the kids, because she did such a good job. From my research, everybody said, wow, she manages everything. She's got the kids going. She checks all their homework, on and on and on. For her to have that kind of day where this happens, I think literally it's just like she hit her limit.
What do you think about the surveillance video of her at that like gas station where like she doesn't seem intoxicated, or like the McDonald's employee who said she was fine?
We can't always read people.
I know.
Have you ever met someone who can hold their liquor and they've been drinking all night, and you're like,
Oh yeah,
wait,
you're looking
drunk?
at her right now, girl.
Oh, and plus, have you guys been to True, the Crime Con and seen Aaron and the captain and Bob Ruff sit there all night drinking and they're fine?
Yeah.
I'm like two drinks in and I'm tipsy. So yeah.
Tipsy? You mean you're going to bed?
Yeah.
Yeah, you give me one drink and like someone's top is coming off. Like I don't.
Someone's. Who knows?
We were recording our episode 2, and it was the last time that Ellyn and I were in the same studio together before quarantine. And we were recording it. I gave her one drink because it was her birthday.
It was a heavy pour. It was a heavy pour.
And she literally was so drunk by the end of the recording on the half of the drink that she drank that she goes, he filled me with vodka.
He filled me with vodka.
Filled me with vodka.
Oh.
It was unbelievable, you guys.
So two documentaries that I would love to discuss with you myself is either Wild Wild Country, about that weird cult up in
the Rajneeshis, of course.
Or Making a Murderer season 2.
What did you think? Garbage or not garbage?
I mean, the show is spectacular. Like they do such a good job with the show, but I am definitely in the camp that Avery did it. And
You
so
are?
yes. And I tore that, like the whole time I was watching it, I'm like, that's not fucking, I was just like yelling at the screen.
Oh my God, that's so interesting. I would have to go back. Like, I'm persuadable.
Did
I
Brandon
think-
Sassy?
So when you watch season 1 and he's talking to his mother and his mother says, did you do this? And Brendan says some of it. I think Brendan had a hand in maybe disposing of her body. I don't know if he actually did.
Do you have a theory of how it happened? Because like the whole like tied to the bed thing definitely didn't happen.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
There's
so
no,
what do you think
there's
happened?
I think they murdered her outside somewhere. I think Avery shot her outside somewhere. That's why you don't find any blood, any kind of stuff. And they burned her in the burn pit and disposed of her car out in the junkyard. And all this, and I have 100% respect for Kathleen Zellner. If I was on the hot seat, I would hire her in a second.
She says it could happen to you at any moment. She's like, she says it 100 times. She's like, none of us are safe. We're all going to jail for a crime we didn't commit.
Meanwhile, though, I feel like most of her explanations in Making a Murderer season 2, I just shit all over them.
Well, my problem with her in season 2 is that like and I know she's not alone in this, but a lot of those defense attorneys do their experiments and they're completely not scientific in any way.
It's like, get the Mythbusters in here. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I know. It's really, oh God, it's so crazy. I would have to refresh myself to like.
I would have to watch it again too. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was something, my other favorite thing about season 2 is that Zellner ends up just directing it. Like, did you notice that? Where she's like, things would happen and she would literally look at the camera crew and be like, should we just get in my car and go there, you guys?
I love her. I love her, dude. I'm not trying to diss her at all. I love her to death, but I just.
Did you see Dream Killer?
No.
It's the
no, we haven't watched it, but we did cover his case back when, Justin.
Ryan Ferguson.
Oh yeah,
Ryan Ferguson.
Yeah. I didn't watch the documentary
because
we covered it before the documentary was out. So it's just,
did you really? Wow.
Yeah.
His friend. Well, we interviewed his dad,
his father,
Ferguson, but
the
whole title comes from his friend saying that it came to him in a dream, right? Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, his friend sort of woke up and was like, I think I know who did it, and I think it was me and my friend. Like his friend was very out of it.
Yeah. Charles, I forgot his whole
Erickson.
name.
Charles
Charles
Erickson. Yeah.
Wealth. You're a wealth of knowledge.
Ellen, you
Have
were
you
talking
had your
about
half cup of vodka over there, Marsh?
Ellen, you were talking about Patrick and his ability to tell stories. You should hear Bill Ferguson because he could tell you stories for 8 hours at a Starbucks, which that happened to me. And you'll just drink and drink and drink and listen, and it's fascinating. He
He's
should have
incredible.
his own podcast.
He explained the whole case like in all like better than any of the lawyers, better than anyone, like just boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, this is gonna have to be a two-parter. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to break this guy up.
I mean, his whole thing about like the flashing yellow light and how Dallas wouldn't have stopped. And then like it took another trial for us to find out that Dallas didn't have a car or a license. Guys, I could go on for forever.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever cover the case of Sneha Ann Phillip? She was the doctor who lived across the street with her husband from the World Trade Center. And she was last seen on September 10th, 2001. And it's just like, it's such a fascinating case. She and her husband lived across the street. They were doctors and she was having a really hard time. She'd gotten fired from one of her residencies or whatever. But her husband was working the overnight shift and she is seen on surveillance video at a store in the neighborhood at like 5 p.m. And that's the last time anyone saw her. And it's like, what happened to her? Like when the towers came down, did she run into them to help? Or did she like use that as an opportunity to like leave? Because they can prove that she never came home. She never was able to like on the night of the 10th, she never came back because when the towers fell and the apartment was covered, all the windows were blown in and the apartment was covered in ash. When they came in the next day, there was no footprints. So she had never been there.
Yeah. We haven't covered that one yet, but it sounds really cool.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So what do you guys have in the hopper? What are you guys covering soon?
Well, ironically, we're covering a case where a woman disappears on September 11th, but it's
Oh my
not that
God.
one. It's
Wait,
really
can you
ironic.
Tell me the story.
Eric,
No,
go
we
for it.
can't really tell the story right now, but
Wow.
it will be coming out within 2 or 3 weeks.
Where she went missing from New York City?
No, it just happened to be this September 11th, 2001, but
Oh, wow.
it was in like Texas or Alabama or some shit. I don't remember.
Wow.
Yeah. But
What a crazy story.
it's and her husband is accused of her murder, even though she disappears, and he goes to trial not 1, not 2, but 4 times. For her.
Wow.
I love a good trial.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. It's crazy. So
Wow.
They keep changing the charges. How do they keep?
no, it was like new evidence would come up, so they'd overturn it and hung juries and all kinds of stuff. It's a wild ride. You'll love it.
That's
So it's-
amazing.
Yeah.
Can I ask a podcast business question?
No.
How about you ask it and we'll see if we answer it.
Okay. How did you guys make the decision to go to Wondery, and how is that going for you?
Well, I don't want to get too deep into that, but let's just say they were really nice to us. And I really like the crew that runs Wondery,
Yeah.
like the people we deal with for advertising and communication.
Yeah.
They're all fantastic, just great people.
We were with Midroll before Wondery, and our advertising sales guy went from Midroll to Wondery, so we kind of followed him.
Oh, I see. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Do you guys have other like shows that you're working on? Like, do you want to make more podcasts?
Always. Always. I mean, Aaron has Framed.
Yeah.
He had season 1, and he's currently working on season 2. And I did Deadly Misadventures, which is more survival stories. And I was doing The Peripheral. But I just haven't had a lot of time lately. So I've been dedicating more time to Gen Y because it, pays more of my bills. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, is there any news on Frame, Darren?
Yes, I've been editing episode 8 today.
Oh shit! How many episodes are there?
10.
All right.
Wow.
But I'm just editing my narration because there's about an hour of it for episode 8, and I have to edit it down because it's funny. Last night I was recording it, and then I don't know why this happens, but like 10 minutes in, I'm flawless, right? I'm just doing perfect. But then the cats start moving through the room and they start chasing balls, and then I start stuttering and just I can't spit the words out right. And then you can hear me on the recording yelling, effing cats and what the hell. And
Wow.
but yeah, so it took me a little while to record when I should have been done probably in like 48 minutes, but it took me like an hour and 4.
God,
But that's how
editing
it
for
goes.
me is this is the most boring thing like I'll ever talk about, but like editing for me is like it takes me forever. Like I'm sure as are you, like I'm so meticulous about editing.
Yeah. Just go ahead. I didn't
No,
mean to
I was
cut
just
you
gonna say, Ellen, you still with us?
It's just so important. Like, I think I do a lot of video editing.
Yeah.
I don't do audio editing, but you have it all there and you just get to make your story. But that's why you guys have successful podcasts. Editing is so important.
I do the bulk of the editing for Gen Y, and I am such a stickler. Like, I mean, I don't even like, banter at the beginning. I just want to say, how you doing tonight, Aaron? Get into the case.
Oh my God. I must have like gotten that from you guys because so few podcasts are like that. There's so many, especially not like the ones that are established, but like the newer podcasts have so much banter at the top that you're just like, this isn't what I'm here for, you know?
And it sucks because we have to have a little banter for our pre-roll.
Yeah.
And so I'm so against it, but we have to have it. And I can't even listen to other podcasts because if you don't take the time to edit out a lip smack, if you don't take the time to just cut down, like when somebody's like, what was that person's name again? I don't know.
God.
Let's Google it. I'm like,
I know.
like, just edit just a little
Wait,
bit.
let me ask you guys a very honest question. And that whatever the answer to this question is totally fine. Have you ever listened to True Crime Obsessed?
I've listened to, we have.
And, okay, do you like it? Like it's such a loud, fast thing. Tell me the truth. Do you like it?
Yeah, I think
It's
it works.
you.
Yeah, it's you.
Right? That's when I listened to it. It was after you introduced yourself to us at CrimeCon, and then I listened to it. I want to say within a month of that, I downloaded an episode and listened to it, and then just today I listened to your new one.
Yeah.
Oh, which episode did you listen to of the new one? Did you listen to the new?
I want to say it was the first one. I'm not sure if it was introducing or episode 1. I don't know if they're the same thing. Yeah. I listened to it just today through, I think, Stitch.
Isn't it funny how we all are in the same business, but we have like the more successful you get, the less time you have to listen to other people's shows.
It sucks. Because I love it. I mean, that's what got us into podcasts, and we listen to podcasts. We
1,000,000%. I know. And Ellen always asks me, she's like, what are you listening to? I'm like, no, I have no time. I mean, we are making so many shows now that like we have zero time to actually listen to anything.
And when I listen to another person's podcast, like if I like when we met at CrimeCon, I was like, hey, that's cool. I'll check you out. And I probably didn't even have a chance to ask you, but I normally ask people like, give me one episode to listen to, because that's probably the only amount of time I will have is one episode.
Yeah.
Because
I know
I listen to maybe one episode of every single true crime podcast out there. And I have, and funny enough, if they don't give me a suggestion, I'll just go look through their back catalog and find something.
Pick one that you like.
So it's like True Crime Fan Club. She did Dimebag Darrell from Pantera, who got murdered on stage. Excellent episode. Have I listened?
On stage?
Yeah, a crazy guy got up on stage and gunned him down.
That's my biggest. Do you know that's my biggest fear?
Really?
Know.
Wow.
I have had so many nightmares of being on Broadway, and I'm dead serious. Literal nightmares of someone open firing while we were all on stage.
Yeah.
I have had that that nightmare more than one time.
I mean, there was a night on Broadway like this year where they're like, you know, the theaters are amazing, but they're so old and they're not soundproof. And like, there was in like near Times Square, there was a car backfired and it sounded like a gunshot. And the Tony Award winning To Kill a Mockingbird was playing. And the actress, Celia Keenan-Bolger, who's a friend of mine, she was like on stage. She heard the backfire and like ran for her fucking life.
She just walked off stage and everyone was piling out of the theater. It was so eye-opening because it was such pandemonium. It was just everyone literally running for their lives and it was a car backfiring.
And see, here in the Midwest, it'd be like, one shot, backfire. Two shots, gunplay. we wait for that second one.
Totally. You know what's so funny? I remember when I first started listening to you guys, I remember really listening for, like, trying to suss you guys out. Like, I know, like, you guys sometimes talk about guns. Like, I think one of you guys has guns, or maybe you both have guns, or whatever. And I remember, like, really trying to be like, what are these guys like? Like, what are they? How do they vote? What do they think about gay people? What do they think about gun rights? What do they think about? And then, like, it was something that really preoccupied me for a while with you guys because I loved your podcast so much.
Were you looking for a reason to not like us?
No, I was actually looking because it came up on an episode that what you guys were talking about guns, and one of you talked about owning guns or whatever. And look, I'm like not an anti-gun person. I'm not that. I don't care if you were. What'd you say?
I wouldn't care if you were. I get along with everybody.
Yeah, like, I'm totally not an anti-gun person, but I am also a very sensitive person. So like I do care about like what people think or whatever. But then I definitely just made the decision of like, okay, look, if I find out that they're like donating money to anti-LGBT causes, then I can stop listening. But like, I think we just need to like separate the and I have no idea. I never learned. I don't know what you guys think about anything. And the bottom line is like on that front for me, it ended up not mattering because I loved your show. Cool. But it is, it's an interesting thing when you're like a public person like that. And people do want to know, I mean, especially now with everything that's going on in the world, people really want to know they are invested in you as people.
Patrick,
like with anything, like you're in their home while they're doing dishes, you're in their car while they're driving to work. So people feel a very, very sense of connection. So that like makes sense. And the voice is like very personal, like just listen to the voice. And then you think of like now, like social media, like I could Google you and see what you look like, but you like think of like what someone look like. What does their house look like? Where do they where do they record? Like, it's that kind of, that's like, natural human curiosity,
What were you going to say, Aaron?
Well, I was just going to say, first of all, politically speaking, if we don't protect everyone's rights, then no one has any rights.
Right. Totally. I totally agree.
That's how it is. There's that old saying back when Hitler was tracking down different groups of people to get rid of. It's like, and then so-and-so didn't say anything. Well, eventually there's no one left to say anything at all.
Right. Yeah.
So we have to protect everybody's rights. And that's what we're seeing lately with the protests and all the media about George Floyd and all the others that have been killed recently. Because if we're not willing to step up when there's a known problem, then what are we doing? We might as well have no progress ever, and we're sliding back down a hill towards what, the 1920s.
Yeah, I mean, especially on True Crime Obsessed, like we have a big listener base and we have a lot of followers on social media, and we were sort of like, we knew that we wanted very much to say something in this moment, but like, then you get stuck in that like, I want to say the right thing, I want to make everybody happy, and I want to make everybody feel better. And it's been a kind of tough day, like couple of days on that front as a person who like makes stuff that people care about and that people listen to and they want to hear from you. Like, how do you guys handle that?
It's hard because you're never going to make everyone happy. And to back up a little bit to what you were saying in the beginning, when you were trying to kind of figure out our political sightings or whatever, Aaron and I are very independent thinkers, and you cannot put us in a left or right box. You could not put us in, everyone wants to be like, okay, you're a lefty, you're a liberal, or you're a conservative, and they just want to pick a team. Yeah. And that's nothing Aaron and I have ever done. we are very anti-political because we hate politics. We hate politicians. We are just very anti things. I mean, I'm wearing a fucking Bad Brain shirt right now. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I'm just, you know, yeah, I own guns, and I wish gun owners actually would use their guns to fight the tyrannical government that they claim to hate, but they're not doing it. I'm like, you have a government that just murdered somebody live on camera. Where you at, guys? Like, where you at? Like, and it's always a political thing, and I just hate the divide, the polarization. And like Aaron's
difference right now being that I mean, obviously without making a huge turn into politics, I think the only difference for me there is that this situation that we're dealing with right now regarding George Floyd is not politics.
No.
That's human rights.
But people are politicizing it. People are
right, and it
turning. Yeah.
Because there's right and there's wrong, and that's it. So it's not like we're, you know, and it's just. So like, I think that's the gray area that I don't see. I'm not saying that you guys see that, but it's not, you know, I had someone, I host a trivia league, and somebody that we're affiliated with through the trivia league said, we posted a Black Lives Matter statement, and they said, well, we don't get political. I was like, it's not politics, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't say like, you know, I'm, you know, anti-Trump or pro-Biden. Obviously, I am, you know, I am to the left.
Yeah.
But it, you know, I think that's the one thing that we need. That's like you can be anti-government, you can be anti-politics, you can be anti-right, anti-left, but nobody should have to, no unarmed person should ever have to die at the hands of somebody who's meant to protect them.
I mean, if you listen to our Freddie Gray episode, I think it comes across pretty clearly our stance on, you know, if you arrest somebody, you detain somebody, they are now in your care, and you now have to protect them. And if they die, it's like if I'm babysitting your kid and your kid dies while I'm babysitting it, I'm cool. I'm fine. I can just walk. You know, no, I'm held responsible for being in charge of your child. But somehow law enforcement isn't. And
but
that's bullshit.
This situation here, though, went beyond that, because if you look at the officer's face, Derek Chauvin, or whatever his name is, he cannot stop. It's like there's a smile on his face, and he's taking glee out of hurting this guy. This guy,
you know what was so like
Floyd.
A revelation to me was that the knee in the neck tactic is like a sanctioned tactic in the police force. Like the guy was in handcuffs and was like face down, and the knee in the neck thing is like legal. Like that to me was like, that's where we need to begin this reform, is, you know, the tactics that police are allowed to use.
But
and sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
No, there's just a difference between a tactic and someone who's doing it until someone dies.
Of course.
I mean a tactic might be, I need to hold you down for 10 seconds while I
put the handcuffs
on you.
Yeah.
It's another thing to have a knee on someone, the back of their neck, for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
I wasn't like defending it. I was just saying.
No, I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying that's where people aren't clear.
For anybody who's listening, like I mean, I'm as horrified as everybody. Like it's murder. It's obviously like, it never should have happened. I just was horrified to find out that, like, I was listening to this podcast yesterday where they were saying, like, if you want real change, you know, you need to do is change the way that police are allowed to act, you know, that like the change in culture is only going to come from the change in like what police are allowed to do.
Yeah.
And you guys, we wandered into like a really
dark place,
sensitive area.
Yeah.
Like I'm
it's a sign of the times.
It is, and it's just, I also just think it's on the forefront of all of our minds. And, you know, we're sitting here, we're 4 white people, and, you know, obviously affected by it because of, again, news cycles and our phones and not being able, I know that I have had to physically talk to myself and say, you need to put your phone down now.
Absolutely.
Now, none of this is going to, you know, and then you walk that line of wanting to be an informed person, wanting to be uncomfortable because others have been uncomfortable for so long. So, you know, it's that line of protecting your mental health and also staying informed and, you know, being able to And it is okay for us to be uncomfortable. You know, that is like the very definition of white privilege, to be able to shut off the TV and it not affect me anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think these conversations, I thought about it. I was like, I wonder if we're going to chat about it, but it is on the forefront of our minds. And
how could we not? How could we not?
And I think that, Patrick and I went back and forth on what to say on our platforms. Again, I'm sure you guys, run the gamut of your fans. You could line up all of your fans and they go from, the leftist to the rightist and everything in between.
Absolutely.
But I do think that we have a platform. Everybody now has a platform. If you have a social media, you have a platform. Someone is listening to you, so it's just kind of making sure you're on the right, I just think that there's right and there's wrong, and then there's a lot of gray in between. But the right and the wrong is very, very clear to me.
There's a question in the chat from Elizabeth. She says, how do you feel sharing your own opinions on supporting certain political topics? Do you feel different not voicing an opinion about political topics? Do you voice your opinion on your own life, about your own life, or in your own life? Things like that. So I think I'm going to kind of summarize that. Do you voice your opinions on your podcast? If you do, how do you feel about it? And do you voice them in your personal life? I absolutely will voice my opinion not on the podcast. But when we're on the podcast, I try to keep it to myself, because I know that with, 500,000 listeners, no matter what I say, I'm going to piss off half my audience.
Yeah.
So,
or be taken out of context.
Yeah. That's normally what happens is I just get taken out of context,
I think that we on True Crime Obsessed, I'll say, like, we definitely, we're very, I'm like a loud gay guy, and my co-host is like a loud woman. Like, I think our politics are pretty clear, and we, it does come out, and I think every now and then we get a response of somebody. Like, we just got an email from somebody the other day who had a ticket to our live show in Orlando, which obviously is like postponed for forever. And I don't know what she heard or read or saw, but she was like, I've been a Patreon supporter for forever, and I've always loved you guys, but you've gotten too political, and I don't pay to hear your political opinions. And now I want a refund for the Orlando show. And we're like, sure, of course. Like, we are never our whole job on True Crime Obsessed is to talk about the documentary. We always just talk about the documentary. We give our commentary. If it's a political subject, like we covered the documentary Wiener, and so that's about politics. And so we talked about politics. And, we covered a documentary called How to Survive a Plague, which is about the AIDS epidemic. And you can't talk about that without talking about the politics of the time. And so we talked about that. And so it comes out where I really see it the most is in our Facebook group. Our Facebook group has almost 27,000 people in it. And we have amazing moderators, but things get really hairy in there because we've really tried to make it a community forum. So people come in and they do feel like they can sort of say what they want. And that can be, really hard. And actually, I find that we tend to have problems more with people that I agree with than people I don't agree with.
Yeah,
it's the people that I tend to agree with who get very literally just breaking the rules of the group in their responses to things,
And Aaron and I get accused of being way too political all the time, even when we try not to be, even when we try to keep it fact-based and evidence-based. We are called right-wing nut jobs. We are called libtards. We are called everything under the book.
Yeah.
With hate mail and messages.
I think that not necessarily your politics, but your opinions are what make you an interesting person.
Yeah.
And I think that the story, we're sitting here for people from different parts of the world, different sexual orientations, different everything. And our stories are what make us interesting. If you don't want to hear my story, that's totally cool. If you don't want to follow me on Instagram, don't follow me on Instagram. I post things that are funny. I post things that I think are funny, but you might not think they're funny.
No, exactly.
Movies that I like, songs that I like. This is my platform. So I believe I take very, very strong political stands. I speak up. I'm a loudmouth. I'm whatever. I'm sarcastic. I rub again. But that's the brilliance of social media. That's the brilliance of, having a podcast. Great. Don't download our show. Someone else will.
Well,
And I will say that, like, I love that we, like, when people do come for me about what they've heard me say on the podcast, my answer is fuck off. Like, I don't care. Get out
And
of
it
here.
should be.
Yeah, fuck you. I don't care. Like, I want,
about it. No.
because my thing is, I never say, everything I say comes from the heart. And I edit the show. So everything that I'm saying, I say intentionally. I very rarely get political, but it's very interesting what people think is political and I don't, you know? And
Right.
so, like,
Gay could be politics.
right.
So you're, you know, like that's not political. That's your life. You know what I mean? But somebody could be offended like that. I mean, but that's the beauty of it. Then just go find another podcast.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, my thing is, like, one of the reasons I got into podcasting was back when I got into podcasting in like 2009, 2010, I was making Broadway podcasts. I wasn't able to find any other podcast where there were people who sounded like me. And so I wanted to make a podcast. I never thought it would be my job. I just wanted to make a podcast where I was 100% myself. And that's where I've been since. And that's how I've found success. And so my thing is, like, I don't want to ever hurt anybody's feelings. I don't ever want somebody to be sad about something that I said. However, I do think that, like, if something is appropriate and something fits into the context of what we're saying, and I think it's important to say it, I'm going to say it. And if you don't like it, we've made 140 episodes on our regular feed, almost 200 episodes on our Patreon feed. You know me. You know me. You know you can DM me. My DMs are open. You know you can email me. I respond to everything. I have actually taken calls with listeners who have disagreed with me. There was one time I made a comment about suicide that I was so wrong about. And I spent 2 hours on the phone with a psychiatrist to be educated. That's the kind of podcaster I am. So if you want to get mad and write me off and you know me as well as you do, then bye. You know, I'm here for the conversation.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Aaron?
Well, I was just going to say that, at least for me, it's not so much about I'm afraid to air my political beliefs or anything like that. I'm trying to stay on topic.
Sure.
And so if I go off the rails, then people will say, well, I was listening to this episode trying to learn about Ted Kaczynski, but then you went on a half-hour rant about politics. They're going to get bored with it, I would think.
Yeah.
So if you want to know what I think, you can write to me. I've had people write in and go, tell me the truth. How do you feel about this politician, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And my answer for anybody who hasn't written in is essentially that the vast majority of people that get down to the nominations and then get elected are people I don't like.
Yeah.
So it's not like there aren't good people running, but you can't win by being good. You win because we're essentially electing people under the same process that we would give someone an award on some TV show. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and not to mention the fact that we live in a country where you can get the most votes, but you still don't win.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with everything. This is a true crime podcast. People come, but things will slip. We're human. Things will slip if we're talking about something that's heated, and it means something to you and it's important. Things will come out. I mean, to Patrick's point, and we all are who we are. But yeah, I mean, I've never heard I've never heard Patrick be, nobody says, even if someone were to say, guys, exercise your gift that we're given in this country, and that's to vote.
Yeah.
Is that political? No, that's just saying exercise your liberties.
Yeah.
Vote. Like, you're not saying like vote one way or the other. You're just saying do this because it's the right thing. If you want change, no matter which way you want it, if you want change, if you want a voice, if you want to be heard, that's your way. But I don't think that's political.
No, but by saying that, people absolutely accuse you of being political. And if you side with the investigation against a murderer, or you totally trash the investigation, you're either a bootlicking cop lover, or you're a cop hater who wants death upon everyone. And you're like, no, there's a little bit of nuance.
It's like, that's the thing about having like success in this business. It's like, you can stay small and please a small audience, or you can grow and be yourself and keep doing the thing that you love to do, and know that like people, like I gotta say, like there's a lot of people with opinions who are thoughtful and who express them in a respectful way. But there's also a lot of like just bored people who just want to like start shit, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I mean, we make a true crime comedy podcast. You know, that when we first started, that was a real tough sell. And I'm not saying we invented it. Like, you know, there was definitely people came well before we did, but just being in that world, even to this day, it's like trying to explain that, like, we didn't set out to make a true crime comedy podcast. We just found each other really funny. And what we found funny was how mad we got. We never make fun of the victims or the crimes. It's always laughing about the idiot cop or the bad defense lawyer or whatever. Like, you know, it's always like, we always say whenever anybody, like whenever we read an iTunes review that's like, I don't think it's funny to laugh about murder. I'm like, well, that was written by a troll who's never listened to our podcast, because we've literally never done that, you know?
Exactly. I mean, that's when Aaron and I first started, you know, people were writing in like, oh, I don't like Justin's laughing during murder. And I'm like, laughing at the prosecutor, like,
just exactly.
Whatever.
Here's the thing, though. There are so many people in America that will decide they don't like you. So they don't want you to be you. Yeah. Like, Patrick, whatever you're doing there, stop it. Yeah. Stop that.
Can you change your voice?
That is so annoying.
That is, guys, but I can't.
It's annoying that people are out there worried about what everyone else is doing. I mean, if you're not killing anybody, if you're just being happy and you're out with your friends, you know, why does this have to turn into something where we're always dividing? I don't understand it, but it's something that so many people are into, is attacking. I work with a guy at my day job, and he cannot understand why there are gay people. He does not understand it. I tried telling him, I'm like, when you say nasty things about certain people, now you're saying that only certain people are good and only certain people should be Americans. And I said, that's because you're comfortable with the environment, the atmosphere of now. But what if it changed and you became the minority, which hopefully he is becoming the minority, but you know what I mean? It's like, he can see that now.
Tell that guy that your gay friend Patrick also doesn't understand why there's gay people. There just are.
But it's not, to me, it's not important. You know,
I would have been like, you know, do you have any children? You might have just made one. There's your explanation.
Why do we have so many people in therapy?
If this guy figures it out, tell him to let me know. I'd love to know how this happened.
Why do we have so many people in therapy? And why do we have so many people that need therapy? Because so many people have been told, you're not okay. Or you can't say this, you can't be that. You know, they're growing up in environments that aren't healthy, or they don't feel comfortable just stating their opinion or being who they are. And it's stunting people's growth. And so for me, everybody should be accepting, you know, except for people like, you know, BTK. That I'm not okay with. But
it's okay to hate serial killers, you guys.
Right,
it's fine.
right.
No one's mad about that.
Totally fine. No.
Yeah.
It's such a fine line. What you were saying about haters. There was, I wrote something on my personal Instagram, and this little 16-year-old troll came, and I was like, okay, I was like, and I said, I answered him, and I said, and no one is going to answer you further. Like, I didn't want anybody else to chime in, because that was like feeding his little, you know, he was 16.
Feeding the troll.
Bassus. I was like, you know, you're just bored. You're bored. I feel bad. I feel bad for you. This is your attention. And so he kept writing. And I was like, you're not, I'm going to win. I'm not
muted. Muted.
Yeah. That's how Ellyn goes into most fights, by the way. Her first words in any argument, I'm going to win.
Yeah. And it sucks, because I'm glad that, Patrick, you still take the time. Aaron is the I call him the hater whisperer, because he can turn people around that hate us. I have to admit, I've become way too jaded. And I feel like the internet and social media, being snarky and shitty is now acceptable. Like, somebody can say something snarky and you're like, I'm not going to answer that. And they're like, oh, I just asked you a simple question. I'm like, but it's all about the tone. And you didn't say, hey, I'm a fan of your show. I had a question about this. You just said blah. And I'm like, I'm just so jaded now. I'm like, F all you people. I don't care. I don't care to explain myself. I don't care to say anything to you. And it sucks because you have to engage with your audience, and you have 99% of your audience loves you and wants to talk to you.
Yep.
But it's an on and off switch. It's either on or off, and you get the haters, along with the lovers. So it sucks.
Yeah. We always say it's a weird job. You know what I mean? It's a weird job. And by the way, it should be the world's mission to put us all out of business. Can we stop killing each other and going missing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So fucking funny.
All right,
Put us
so
out of
Patrick,
business, you guys.
huh?
Just put us out of business. Why isn't everybody trying to put us out of business?
This is the human nature, unfortunately. But before we wind this down, if anyone else has any questions, feel free to ask. But tell us a little bit more about the new show, Patrick.
Yeah, so it's called Obsessed with Disappeared. It's hosted by Ellyn and me. I always say it's a true crime comedy podcast where we tell the stories of missing people by recapping the episodes of the ID show Disappeared. As Aaron said, it's everyone's favorite true crime show. It's really well made. We never find the humor in the victims or the crimes. It's really about how mad we get at the crimes, the dumb things that the people around the victim and around the crimes do, and also like the 20 years worth of just like shade that Ellyn and I have on each other. It is such a interesting thing, you guys know, to make a podcast with somebody that you've known for 20 years that like only you know certain things about, because though we stick to the story and though we don't meander into like, we don't like go down the rabbit holes of like personal stories, stuff comes out, and the way that we relate to each other is really fun and warm and also like antagonistic, and it just makes for a really like interesting storytelling 45 minutes. Ellyn, what do you think?
I mean, it's funny because really from start to finish, it's really a straight through conversation. I mean, Patrick edits all that stuff, but yeah, we don't have a script and we're really just like authentically us. This is like, if you sit down, if you're to do this, if you're to sit down at a meal with us, we both vibrate at like, on a scale of 1 to 10, like we hover around like a 13.
Like a 14 or a 15.
We started this 5 minutes before the stream and you guys were going.
But I mean, that's just like how we've always been. And it's always high. We are all or nothing people. Like if you had a choice to be on like Patrick Sarai's good side, like you're gonna want to be on the good side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're
like me when I'm mad.
Working, we're hard loving, we're hard laughing, we're like, that's just us. So this was, this is our dynamic. This is how we always are. If cameras were on, if the microphone is on, or we were just sitting, in our living room. But he came over for a socially distanced dinner at my house the other day on the roof, and he had 17 panic attacks just from being on my roof. Like,
hang on a second. Hang on. Her rooftop has. So okay, I was there with my 6-year-old. And her rooftop has like a barrier to keep you from falling 4 fucking stories to your death. It comes up about 1.5 feet. That's the wall between you and certain death.
There's a simple solution. Don't walk by the edge.
Your child's up there.
My kid was up there.
My daughter's 10. Like, just don't walk by the edge. But anyway, that's really what you get us talking about these stories that we are so passionate about, and this is us. This is just who we are.
Yeah, I heard you going off about the cell phone they were tracking for how many days? It was the wrong phone.
Oh my God! In the Brandy Wells episode, that police department makes so many mistakes.
The wrong cell phone? Like that's the first thing you're gonna do. If I find a phone, if I find anyone's phone, I'm seeing who the last people you called were. And I'm gonna, they didn't check the phone.
Case solved, right?
I know. And then they found surveillance video at the nightclub where she was, and they're like, this was definitely her walking in. And then this was definitely her going to the bar getting a drink. And this was definitely her leaving. It's 3 different people in 3 different outfits with 3 different hairstyles. And
a woman with like a flowered shirt and like a hat, and then the next person is like a girl with jeans who's like 2 feet big, and then the other one was a man.
Right. We solved it.
Yeah. That was her. We're like,
that's exactly right.
Not her.
So that's our show, Aaron. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed it. I really did. And like I said, I listened to it today, And another part you were talking about was where she was leaving, she went straight, but then you can tell by her shadow that she makes like a turn and cuts across.
It's unbelievable. And like, that's the last image of Brandy Wells known in the world. And it's like, where was she going? Like, it's, you know, as Ellyn and I we say all the time, like, where are they? Where is she? Where the hell is she?
Where is she? But that video surveillance, I love video surveillance, but and they say she makes a right. And I was like, I don't see anything. And then they like zoomed in on it. And she goes, I just got chills. She's gonna clearly goes the other way. Like, was someone like, hey, Brandy? Like,
it's unbelievable.
It's so crazy. And you know, also the interesting thing is Patrick said he's very sensitive. We're both parents and of daughters. And like my daughter knows, like she has fought me tooth and nail to like walk down the block. I'm like, are you crazy? And
is it crazy? You don't let her do that, do you?
Never.
Yeah, but what did your parents let you guys do?
Oh, I know. Playing in the woods behind my house with a lake until 9:30 at night. I was 10.
When I was in high school, my mom used to say, "Come home before the paper."
Yeah.
Like, your mother said that?
I was trustworthy. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I didn't do drugs. I was a nerd. Like,
but your mom, the thing about Ellyn's mom, she is so great. She's still so beautiful. I'm like, I love your mom. In one of the episodes, I was like, your mom's amazing. And you go, my mom is scary. I was like, she's scary? She goes, she's a black belt in karate and taekwondo. You guys, she's 4 feet tall, her mother.
Yeah. No, but like I grew up in Northern California, and yes, to your point, they were not strict. We would come home when it got dark. Yeah. We would disappear. We would just disappear, and then we would just flock home when it got dark.
Ellyn, like in her childhood, lived part-time with a kidnapper. I don't know if you knew that.
I would disappear for the entire weekend. I wouldn't even come home at night. I would just be gone from Friday night to Sunday.
Where were you?
I was out with my skater friends, sleeping on top of like grocery stores and in alleys and stuff. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Never. No way.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Southern California until 88. And then I moved to Kansas City, and I've been here ever since, pretty much.
Wow.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
My daughter's not going anywhere. Anyway, all to say, we get, there's a couple times we've gotten like really emotional. I mean, it's, you know, we're both sensitive people and we're parents, and you just think, and especially when you hear, you know, the pleas from parents, and these are older cases, which we love because we love keeping these cases alive, especially the ones that are still unsolved, because obviously after a certain amount of time, you have to believe that something bad has happened. But for that just to be a question mark, that's the worst, when there's no answer.
Well, before we close this down, Patrick and Ellyn, can you please, each of you, give us a case you really would love to see solved? If you could press a button and get a case solved right away, which one would it be?
I mean, mine is like no doubt Maura Murray. I have such a soft spot in my heart for that case. And Maura Murray is episode 6 of Disappeared, so we've already recorded our episode, and I got to interview her sister Julie for like an interview that we're going to put out in our podcast feed on the same day that the episode comes out. And I just really like, guys, we got to figure that one out. We got to, everyone stop what you're doing. We got to figure that one out.
My answer is true, but very, very cliche. And it's just because I feel so connected to it on so many levels. Adnan Syed.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
The emotional journey that I went on with that case, and just how many conclusions I've drawn. I just want to know.
I'm going to say something really annoying. I can't tell you this, but like Rabia told me straight up who she thinks did it.
Yeah. I have a pretty good idea.
Who do you think?
No, what she said to you.
Oh yeah. Yes. I'm sure that you're right.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a commercial case, but I just for some reason got very, very emotionally attached to it. So
Yeah.
Well-
Oh God. Oh, do I have to pick? Can I say the Adnan Syed case as well, you guys?
no, you already said yours. Maura Murray. Ugh, that yeah.
Well,
I
hopefully
honestly thought you were
we'll
gonna say Maura Murray just so that I would shut up about it.
hopefully we'll see Justin appearing over there on True Crime Obsessed sometime, huh?
Yes, we're making it happen.
He's
We're doing
ready.
it.
He's got some good ideas, so hopefully that happens.
You know, if you want to piss off half your audience with my opinions on Stephen Avery, it's cool.
I actually wanted to hear the wild one.
Either one.
West
I'm
Virginia?
open to either one.
Either one, I'll listen. But thank you so much for coming on, and it's great to talk to you again. And hopefully, if CrimeCon happens, we'll see you up there.
Yeah, you guys, I love you so much. Thank you for having us. This has been such a, like, when you asked us to do this, I was like, really? Us? Really? So thank you. This has been amazing. And you guys we stand on your shoulders. Thank you for helping to pioneer this part of this business. And
thank you so
we
much.
really are such big fans.
Yay.
Well, thank you for being great, both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you
And
for
have a great night.
All right, bye guys.
guys.
Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for the support.